Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we're talking about assault mech builds for Battletech Extended 3025, and we've already done all of the other ones. We've done starter mechs, light mechs, medium mechs, heavy brawlers, heavy ranged. So this is the last video where I'll be discussing potential mech build ideas for the Battletech Extended 3025 mod for Battletech. So let's dive straight into it and start with this 80-ton awesome that I have right here. As usual, I will be looking at mechs that you're going to encounter more commonly from the assault class, and I will cover one or two rarer ones as well, and we're looking at potential builds that are going to do pretty well in this mod based upon my experience anyway. So here we have the awesome 8R, and it's pretty obvious what you're going to do with this. It's a very common mech. You will see plenty of awesomes, particularly this variant, once you get to the stage where you're facing assault mechs. I mean, because the mod is lore compliant, assault mechs are not the most common things around. They're a little bit more common than perhaps they should be in lore, but the game wouldn't be that much fun if it was totally lore compliant in that respect as well. So you do see them, but yeah, this is one of the more common assault mechs. 80 tons, easy to get your hands on. Cram in 4 LRM-15s, and you'll see I've got 9 tons of ammo, and you might be looking at that and thinking, 9 tons? That's insanity. Why do you need 9 tons of LRM ammo? Well, my usual reason that in the longest missions, the longest engagements, I don't like to run out of ammo, and I used to just run with 8, and I've had 1 or 2 occasions where I've actually ended up running out of ammo in the longer ones, so I decided I can squeeze an extra ton into this, and that's exactly what I do. So 1 ton ends up being in an arm, but yeah, that gives me enough to see myself through even the longest engagements. And 4 LRM-15s is what I go to with this, because you've got the 4 missile slots. So 1, you can. 2, it totals 60 missiles, which of course you can do by going for 320s if you choose, but I find having 4 15s is a bit more flexible for the firing cycle. So, you know, when you've only got 320s, you've not got as many options for how many you want to switch off for turns where you're running a little bit hot. Whereas with 415s, I can choose to switch off anything between 1 and 3 LRM-15s and still be able to fire. And it can, you know, depend on what I want to do, how much damage I want to be doing, how much heat I want to lose. So it's just flexibility, basically, is the reason behind it. And it fills the slots nicely. It feels just right. So yeah, again, as I've stated before with LRM mechs, on the heavy category, or probably in the mediums as well, the main strategy you're usually going for if you're cramming LRMs into your builds is you're looking to do stability damage. So anywhere you can get the extra stability damage variants of the weapons, I recommend cramming those in and doing as much knockdown potential as you can possibly achieve. So this build just has a single heat sink in there as well, backing it up. Heat efficiency is not amazing, but it's not terrible either. And as I said, to lose heat or not gain too much, you can choose to switch off, you know, any amount of these LRM-15s. I find this, as usual, works well with coolant vent, pilot skill, or of course you can go for a multi-target breaching shot pilot, but if you're going to go for that solidly, you're probably better off going 3 LRM-20s because it just fits that more readily, but you can do it with this as well. It just depends on how you want to do things, but yeah, I like this. It's an easy to get hold of early assault mech, in terms of it being only 80 tons, and it's pretty effective. I'd say far more effective than any of the Victors, which you will find are also very common. I'm not a fan of the Victors though. Too much engine, not enough space for weapons. This bad boy, on the other hand, plenty of space for weapons, and that's what I'd do with it. Right, on to the next. As soon as the game registers that I've clicked back. There we go, finally. Right, let's have a look. We've got the Longbow next, which is one of the mechs that's in the mod. Obviously the 8R is a vanilla awesome. The LGB 7Q is not vanilla. It's a mod-specific mech, and it's pretty awesome. The Longbow is designed to be an LRM mech, and it fits that you would build it in such a way. And obviously it's the same weapons loadout as I have on the Awesome, but this is a 5-ton heavier mech. Awesome being 80 tons, this being 85. Now, there are 2 versions of the Longbow in this mod, and one of them has a larger engine and therefore less space for weapons. So I choose the 7Q because, although it's slower, I can cram more stuff in it, and that just makes it better in my opinion. And again, this is very common. The Longbows you will find pretty readily. The other variant is the OW, the LGB OW, or as I like to call it, the OW. And yeah, given the choice between the two, and you will see plenty of both of the variants, go for this one. For a support mech, it doesn't need to be very fast. It's got a huge range if you've got LRMs in it, and you can just plod your way along, firing your missiles in. Again, you could build this with 320s. I prefer to build it with 4 LRM 15s, and the major difference between this and the Awesome build is just some extra heat sinks. So I've also given this 9 tons of LRM ammo, so this really will be able to fire almost forever in terms of mission length. And 3 heat sinks means it's just that little bit more heat efficient than the Awesome, and therefore if you've got the option of this, take this over the Awesome for sure. Another thing that can be done with the Longbow, thanks to its 6 ballistic hardpoints, is you can cram this full of SRMs as well, which I've also done, and I find lots and lots of fun. One of my regular viewers when I'm live streaming, known as Sarge, hello Sarge if you're watching, Sarge suggested when I built one that was crammed with SRMs that I should call it the short bow. Seems kind of obvious, doesn't it? But I liked that. So we've got the Longbow for long range, and you can build a short bow for short range with SRMs if you prefer. But this is my go-to build for a Longbow. It fits the lore and everything, so it just seems right that it's an LRM boat. And it really does hit hard and do a lot of stability damage with the 4 LRM 15s or 3 LRM 20s if you prefer that. Right, next. Wow, it's taking a little bit longer than I'm used to come out each time, but there we go. Right, next we'll look at the Battlemaster. This variant is the Battlemaster 1S. It's 85 tons of fun here, and let's just have a look. The Battlemaster is obviously packing a bigger engine than the Longbow that I've just shown you, which is why it goes a bit faster. So you can't cram as much into it in terms of firepower, but you can get plenty in. I like this Battlemaster variant because although it's one of the rarer ones, it's a fun one for me because I like my SRMs on brawlers, and this has 5 missile hardpoints, which is quite unusual for a Battlemaster. So I've made use of that. It's 4 energy hardpoints, 5 missile hardpoints. I've just gone for the missile hardpoints, and of course I've gone for 5 SRM 6s. Now you may have seen on my heavy brawlers video that we can do this exact same build in a bombardier, which is a much lighter mech, but this of course has more armor and will run a bit more heat efficient. And still 5 SRM 6s is an amount of firepower worthy of a faster assault mech, just as it's worthy of a heavy mech. So it's fun to use. It does plenty of stability damage, it does plenty of armor stripping, and it's all in the package of a big tough 85 ton mech's worth of armor. 5 tons of ammo as well, same as I would do in the bombardier. The main difference is a bit more heat efficiency and more armor, and that's that. It's a nice speed as well. If you're using this with heavy mechs, it will keep up with your heavy mechs in terms of movement allowance, so it's pretty cool. We'll look at the next Battlemaster, and that is the D variant that I've picked out for that. The D variant is definitely more readily available than this one, I would say, and You'll probably recognise it from the vanilla game, I'm sure, but I'll show you what I do with it anyhow, and that's it's got 7 energy hardpoints, 1 ballistic hardpoint, and a couple of support slots. And I've professed how good I think medium lasers are many times before throughout this little mini series of build strategy guides, and so I've built this around 7 medium lasers, which is taking up all of its energy hard points. After that, I've gone for 2 machine guns to fill up all of its support weapon slots. And usual reasoning, machine guns are 0 heat weapons, and I can just take half a ton of ammo, which doesn't cost me much to equip, and gets me a little bit of extra firepower, a little bit of a chance of causing pilot injuries thanks to the machine gun's propensity for hitting the cockpit due to the amount of projectiles they spam out. And then once that's done, I've crammed it full of heat sinks, and you look at it and you go, right, well, I've got tonnage left to spare. Now I could change some of these medium lasers to large lasers, try to use the tonnage that way, but I want this to be just a brawler, and it just happens that this works, that you can fit an AC2 in it after you've done everything else you want to. Now, it's a weird one, this, because honestly, generally I would say the AC2 is the underpowered weapon in this game. If I had to pick one weapon system that I think is the worst, I would say the AC2. It doesn't really fit a good niche like the other weapons. Most of the other weapons I think are very well balanced. They all have their purpose, their role, pluses and minuses that are roughly on a par with each other. The AC2 I think is a bit rubbish, but it just happens that this ends up, after I've built what I want with it, it has enough tonnage spare that I can throw one in and a single ton of ammo, and it just does that little bit of extra damage. It's kind of like having an extra medium laser to a degree, in that it does the same damage. I've put a plus 10 damage AC2 in, so that's 35 damage, just the same as all my medium lasers that are plus 10. So it's like adding an extra medium laser, but it doesn't generate anywhere near as much heat as a medium laser. Not that medium lasers generate much heat, but this only generates 4. But it does have an absolutely huge range, so you know, it gives you something you can throw at the enemy while you close the distance. Not that it's anything to get excited about. You know, the equivalent of firing one super long range single medium laser is not really going to scare anything, is it? But it's there, and it fits. And as I said, if it wasn't for using that, I'd end up making these medium lasers into large lasers, and then I get less heat sinks in the build, and it all got a little bit messy. So I just found this is just a nice place for this Battlemaster build to sit at, and it's therefore it's actually the only mech that I've ever built where I would put an AC2 in it and not feel that that's a really daft idea. It just works. So yeah, might be weird, you might think, what's he doing, but hopefully that explanation makes sense to you. So that is the Battlemaster 1D, and again, it's not that hard to get hold of. It's more common than the other Battlemaster variant we looked at, and it's easy enough to build. Now, onto Highlanders. Highlanders show up pretty often. I'm kind of pleased about that because they're a great assault mech. But yeah, they seem fairly common, and so I've got a couple of different Highlander builds here. I think yeah, I do another one later on, the Highlander 733C, and between the 733 and the 733C, they're both roughly equally common as far as I'm aware. The 733P I believe I see a lot less often, so I haven't actually covered one of those, but we'll look at the 733 build here first. So that's obviously moving up to 90 tons now, as I'm sure you noticed. A bit of a heavier mech than we've looked at so far, and this first one I've once again gone for my classic 4 LRM-15s build, and if I'm using end game stuff, as in I've got the best things that I could possibly want from the assault category, and I want to use a dedicated LRM boat, this is often the one I'll go for. Now, there is an Atlas variant that has 6 missile hardpoints that you could do an LRM boat with. That's the AS7A. It's quite hard to get your hands on, pretty rare. But you could build that into an LRM boat, and it would be slightly better than this Highlander. So congratulations if you got hold of one of those, and that's what you did with it. Although I'd say you're selling it short if you make that an LRM boat, and I will show you later why that is. But yeah, so this is what I've gone for 4 LRM-15s. You've seen this before, same amount of ammo, you've seen it before. 4 heat sinks. You know, it's basically just an up-armoured, slightly cooler running version of the next one down, which was the Longbow. So you can do this in the Awesome, you can do it a little bit better in the Longbow, you can do it a little bit better again in the Highlander 733, and it makes for a fantastic LRM boat, and I recommend that very much. You barely strip any armor off this. It's even got it's max on the legs, max everywhere, just stripped down a little on the back, 55 on all locations. Very unlikely to get shot in the back, of course, because it's firing with LRMs from far away. And another great thing about this mech is once that ammo is expended anyway, you've got an entire empty side of the mech, if you do start getting in trouble and getting shot at, that you can use as a shield, because you're not really going to lose anything significant if that side of the mech happens to get blown to pieces. You can protect your left torso where all your juicy weaponry is, keep it safe by showing the enemy your right side. Yeah, it's pretty reliable build, and probably my most commonly used endgame LRM boat. This is a go-to mech for me. Another thing you can do with the Highlander 733 that I like is if you want just a straightforward sniper type mech, you can go with 2 PPCs and an AC-10. Of course, anywhere you see an AC-10, if you happen to have Gauss rifles and enough ammo to run them, by which I mean 2 tons per Gauss rifle, I think that's the right way to go, you can just swap the AC-10 for a Gauss rifle. The Gauss rifle will weigh 2 tons more, so you just drop 2 heat sinks. Done. The Gauss rifle generates no heat, or I think it's no heat, yeah. Whereas the AC-10 generates 12 heat. So losing those heat sinks, you're not really losing much, because you know, putting the Gauss rifle in and not having that generating heat makes up for the lack of those 2 extra heat sinks. But this again is a build where you've got an entire empty side in it, which means you can use that once you get banged up a little bit. I don't recommend going into the enemy, like facing that left torso towards the enemy right from the start, because they'll wear through it. Start off facing head on to the enemy, let them do a bit of damage to you, but once that damage has been taken, say your right side starts getting a little bit weaker, then you start using that left side as a shield, and it will give you that much more survivability, a little bit more times, a few more rounds, where you're not going to lose these weapon systems. If you've got to lose something, you're just going to lose an empty arm or possibly an empty torso, and you're mostly going to be fine to do that. But this I like, because you can afford to have jump jets in this as well. Now, I haven't taken maximum jump jets in this. Some of you may prefer to run it a little bit hotter, drop those extra heat sinks, and just have an extra jump jet in instead to max it out. But I find it works all right with 2. It will get you to some places that you want to get to that you can't without, you know, having jump jets. You can see you can jump 90 meters. Your maximum move is 95, so you can almost jump as far as you can move. It's 5 meters difference, doesn't make that much of a big change. So yeah, I find this a handy build. 2 tons of AC-10 ammo keeps the AC-10 running just fine, and the 2 PPCs. This is a long-range sniping mech, just for whittling stuff down from far away and from relative safety. Yeah, I like that build, and again, as I said, replace that AC-10 with a Gauss rifle and it gets even better. But of course, Gauss rifles are pretty rare to get your hands on, although the ammo is not. The ammo is pretty easy to find in this mod, which is nice. Okay, now we're on to the Cyclopses, and there are 2 variants of Cyclops. They came, of course, with the Flashpoint DLC. Now we're on the Urban Warfare one, which should date this video. If you're watching this in the distant future, this is being recorded not too long after the Urban Warfare DLC dropped. But yeah, so this Cyclops 10Q is my favourite of the 2 Cyclopses. Again, it's pretty obvious why. It's because you can throw SRMs in it, and I actually use this for a very specific purpose. I don't normally use it in my Lancers unless I am doing one of the target acquisition missions, and I'm doing it with endgame stuff, and I need one of my mechs to be fast enough to reach the furthest away target location. So there's normally 3 zones you've got to get to and occupy for 2 turns. I will use a Cyclops for this because if you look at its movement, it's faster than most of the other assault mechs. It's faster, well, at least the ones that are 90 tons and upwards. Faster than a Highlander, faster than Atlas, Crab, King Crab, Annihilator. You know, you get the point. It's a pretty nippy 90-ton mech, which is rare. I think, in fact, this is the only 90-ton mech that goes as fast as it does. So that's why I use it for that, because I know I can just about get to that furthest target acquisition zone in time before things get too tight, and this is tough enough to take the punishment that it will take getting there. Most of the time. There can be some times where it gets wrecked, but most of the time it's got enough armor to get there, and it can dish out a reasonable punch at the same time. 5 SRM6s is not to be sniffed at in terms of damage. It does the job. It does have 7 missile hardpoints, so if you want to try cramming more stuff in, you can, or if you want to break these SRM6s down into 2s or 4s or whatever and just use all your slots up to give yourself a bit more flexibility when turning weapon systems on and off, you are perfectly welcome to do that, and it works just the same, as long as the grand total equals the same as what I got here. I find this a good build. Again, 5 tons of ammo will see you through for this, and just a couple of heat sinks in there, so it's not the most heat efficient ever, but it doesn't need to be either, because like I said, I use it for a very specific role, and that is to run to an objective that's far away and still have lots of armor to survive while you're doing it. So that's the Cyclops 10 cube. Now the other Cyclops is probably more popular with most people. I'm not a massive fan of it myself, because I don't like the weapon hard points so much, but the other one is the 10Z, and that of course has the battle computer in it, which is a great bit of kit that moves all your mechs up by 1 initiative phase, which is pretty awesome. So there you go, +1 initiative for all Lance units. So it can allow you to act that little bit earlier than your enemies, which can turn into an advantage. Now, again, 90-ton mech, the weapon hardpoints, and the fact that the battle computer is fixed, and that, I'm just like, I don't know. I like the missile one. I'm less of a fan of this because I can do this kind of build in things that are much smaller. But of course, you know, the battle computer's pretty awesome. Can't complain too much about that. And I've gone for 6 medium lasers, an SRM6 and an SRM4. I mean, you could go for a second SRM6 if you really want, but then you won't have room to fit a gyro in. Which I think is important. You'll see I have gyros in my mechs generally. I haven't really mentioned it, but I think the -30% stability gyro is the best one generally, because most of my pilot deaths come when they get knocked over. Because once you've got bulwark, once you know how to play the game, it's pretty rare that a pilot just gets shot straight out of his cockpit, and it's pretty rare that you screw up enough that a pilot or a mech gets destroyed anyhow. But if you're up against stuff in this game with LRMs, and that in Battletech Extended 3025, because of the lore of the period, a lot of the builds of that period do have LRMs aplenty. If you're coming up against forces that are stacking loads of LRMs, you will notice you are taking unholy amounts of stability damage, and every now and then the AI will focus you, particularly if they've got something with sensor lock. They'll pick on one of your 4 mechs and they'll all fire at it, and it will get knocked down, and sometimes when they get knocked down, you don't get an opportunity to get them up again before they're just wrecked. They get destroyed. So for me, it's a big priority to never get knocked down if I can help it. So those -30% stability gyros go a long way towards helping my mechs not hit the floor in the first place. So I mean, this one isn't packing one, but you will have seen plenty of my mechs do, and that's why, really, because that's why I think it's the best, because it's something that lessens the chance that I will lose a pilot when I'm playing the campaign. This build also has a whole load of heat sinks backing up these weapon systems. It's reasonable, but honestly, you know, compared to some of the other mechs we'll look at, this does not feel like an assault mech's worth of firepower. And so, as nice as the battle computer is, I'd rather take an Atlas or a King Crab and live without the battle computer. But, you know, if that's your preference, there's a good build that works very well with the Cyclops. You can also build it around an AC-20 if you prefer that, but I just find the AC-20 is a little bit heavy for this chassis, and I can squeeze out more firepower by just not using a ballistic at all. Which, as I've said before, is a general rule I go for with mechs. Is, you know, if you've got tons of tonnage to play around with and your engine's not too big, ballistics are great. If you haven't, just go for energy systems as your major weapon system. Right, now we're on to something particularly rare. those of you that watch my live streams will know I've spent many hours searching far and wide for Nightstar parts, and so it's pretty hard to get hold of, but we'll have a look at it anyway, because I know some of you out there will be lucky enough that you'll end up with a whole Nightstar at some point in your career. So let's have a look what can be done with it. Now this is just what I like to do with it, and I like to make it a bit of a headshot machine. If I can get improved damage AC10, so +5 or +10, anything will do. Anything that's over 61 damage can one-shot a mech's cockpit if there's no damage mitigation. So if they're out of cover and you go for a precision strike at the head, any one of these 3 weapon systems here can outright kill a mech, which is great, and also means that you get maximum salvage parts available from it as well, which is nice. So what we've got here is the AC-10s. We've got enough ammo to supply them. Now, if you're wondering why I've got ammo in the arm there when normally I put it in the leg, it's because when I was originally setting this up, there was actually a bug with the Nightstar that wasn't allowing you to use all of the leg slots. So obviously that's now been fixed, so there you go. I'll just shuffle the ammo to where it should be. So we've got 3 AC-10s. The ballistic hardpoints are in the arm, so you're getting plus chance to hit, which can be handy. And then I've just thrown a medium laser in there as well, just because you end up, you know, you can either, I mean, if you remove that, look what happens when I remove that. The heat efficiency shoots way up. So if I was to put in a heat sink, it's hardly worth it. You don't really need it. It's already heat efficient enough. You could put in a very basic targeting computer. I think there are targeting computers that only weigh a ton, so if that's your thing, you could do that. But honestly, once your pilots get to the stage that you're on assault mechs, you've got the gunnery skill that you don't need targeting computers. They're a waste of time and tonnage. So I've just gone for a medium laser instead, just for a little bit of extra damage when things get close. And as usual, the golden rule for AC-10s, 2 tons of ammo per weapon system, and we're all golden there. It's a tough mech. It's a 95-ton mech. It's got plenty of armor, and it's got good long-range firepower. The hard points mean you can do plenty of things with this. 5 energy hard points, 4 ballistic. You can build this with 4 AC5s and a large laser backing that up if you prefer that. There are options, but this is what I like out of it, just a big, hard potential punch straight through the cockpit for instant death that the AC-10s provide. And there are not many mechs that you can cram 3 AC-10s on, and once you hear the sound of that, you'll understand why I quite enjoy it. It's a very satisfying. You've heard 1 AC-10. You've probably even heard 2 AC-10s. When you've heard 3, it's like, oh yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. Right, so let's go on to the King Crab. Now, the King Crab, unlike the Nightstar, the King Crab is pretty common as an assault mech in Battletech Extended 3025. I see plenty of these, and there are so many ways to build them. I mean, they make great brawlers. You can give them 2 AC-20s, you can give them 2 AC-10s, make them more long range. But this is just a build that I happen to like with the King Crab that has the ability to reach out and touch stuff from far away, with a little bit of backup for close-up as well. And none of these weapons systems have a minimum range, so you know it doesn't matter if stuff closes range with you. 4 large lasers, as you'll have seen from my other videos in other weight categories, like in the heavy category, for example, 4 large lasers is a good sniping amount of weaponry in the first place. That will do good damage from far away. And additionally, we've got an AC-10 on top of that. So this really does really strip away armor. It's great if you're playing a precision strike approach to your playthroughs, where you're making good use of what's it called? It's escaped me. Cool shot mastery, that's the one I'm after. The one you get when you have 9 points in tactics. So yeah, if you're making good use of cool shot mastery, this build works rather well, either for going for headshots or just straight up CT shots. This will pick a mech apart quite efficiently. And then of course we've just got the 4 machine guns in there on top, just because you can fit them in. This is already a heat efficient enough build. It's already got enough ammo, so I can cram 4 machine guns in and a ton of ammo on top of that, and just get that extra nastiness when close up. And again, you can use it for head hunting. If those machine guns are in range, you've got a very good chance that one of your weapon systems is going to hit the head, and if it's the AC-10, then you could kill something instantly, which is nice. So there are many ways, as I said, to build a king crab, and there are many ways that I like, but this one I find is pretty good. Right, let's go on to the next. Of course, it'll take a while to come out. Now I've run out of things to say. Come on. There we go. Right, okay, so we're on to Atlases now, and there's one Atlas variant that is missing from here, because at the time that I set this up, I hadn't been lucky enough to get the parts for my favourite Atlas in the mod. So what I'll do is I'll load up another game save where I do have one of those, and I'll show you the Atlas and the build that I've gone for with it. But for now, we'll look at the Atlas D, the Atlas RS, and the Atlas LL. Now, the Atlas D is the most common Atlas in the mod, and again, it's the Atlas variant from the vanilla game itself. And so I'm sure you will all have ideas of how to build an Atlas, but just in case for new players, if you don't, here's something that I really love doing with the Atlas D, and that is 2 AC-20s. 2 AC-20s is ridiculously dangerous. On top of that, 2 medium lasers and 2 machine guns as well. It's heat efficient enough. This is an out and out death ball of a brawler. It's got 3 tons of ammo per AC-20, which, as I've said many times before, is the amount that I think is correct and enough to see you through a mission. It's got plenty of heat sinks, half a ton of ammo for the machine guns, which is more than enough to keep those going. And basically you use this to march towards the enemy, intimidating them as the Atlas was designed to do, and then tearing off absolutely huge chunks of armor with each of these AC-20 rounds that hits home. And again, if you hit head, if you hit cockpit with these, you can instant death things, no problem. The downside to it is it's very short range, so you've got to get close to be effective, but with the armor levels an Atlas has, that's not too much trouble. And as you can see, very little armor taken away from this mech, just reduce the back a little, 60, 60 and 65 on the rear center. Still gives it a good amount of ammo in its rear in case something does outmaneuver it, but not many things are going to be able to have the chance to outmaneuver this, because if they try, they will find themselves blown apart with dual AC-20s very quickly and very easily. But yeah, it's one of my favorite builds in this game for a brawler. I often go for SRMs and medium lasers for my brawlers, but this is a mech where I feel the AC-20s really come into their own, and you can have 2 of them. Now, you might think, well, why don't you do that on a king crab? A king crab comes with that. Well, the reason is simple. The king crab's ballistic hardpoints are in the arms and are therefore more vulnerable to being blown off. The Atlas has them in the right torso. Granted, it's all your eggs in one basket because you've got 2 ballistics in the same torso, but honestly, protecting that right torso is a lot easier than protecting the arm locations of a king crab. So that's why I like the Atlas D for that and not the king crab. Now we'll look at the Atlas RS. A little bit rarer variant, but you can find it. It is perfectly possible to pick yourself up one of these through a playthrough, and this is a build that I like because it's a bit of a throwback to the early days of competitive MechWarrior Online. And for those that don't know, I come from a background of playing many years at the top end of the MechWarrior Online competitive scene, and in fact I ran the biggest league in that game as well, called MRBC League. But before MRBC League, before we were doing any of that, there were other competitions in the early days, and this was a mech that was used long before the clans were released and all of that nonsense. The Atlas RS was a competitive build, and we used to actually use it with a Gauss rifle and 4 large lasers, and it made for a great build. And again, I would recommend, if you've got a Gauss rifle, stick that in instead of your AC-10 and drop a couple of heat sinks and it works just fine. and I really like it. It's a good support snipey Atlas, which might sound weird because you think, oh, Atlas with all that armor, you should be getting up close and personal, but you don't always want to, you know. Sometimes you might want to play a longer range style of play. You might be attacking a base where you want to be able to pick turrets off from long range without them being able to hurt you, and this will do that. This will wreck a turret, no problems. 4 large and an AC-10, or 4 large and a Gauss rifle works just nice. And like I say, I've got a soft spot for this because it's a bit of a throwback to the early days of MWO. And yeah, all right, so the laser positions are in the arms, a little bit vulnerable as a result, but if you're sitting this at the back, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. And it just does good long range damage. It's very, very solid in terms of how much it can put into a location, particularly if you precision strike as well. This will open up center torsos, no problem at all. Right, so again, we're on to the next Atlas, which is the Atlas LL. A little bit rarer than the RS, I find. I'm not sure whether it is in the actual tables of rarity values, but I just find the LL I come across a little bit less than the RS. But you can do a great thing with the LL, which is turn it into a bit of a monster of a brawler. It's a bit of a rainbow mech in that it's got, you know, one of every weapon type in it: green, blue, yellow, pink. We got everything in here. It's got 1 ballistic hardpoint, 5 energy hardpoints, 2 missile hardpoints, and 4 support weapon hardpoints. And if I remember rightly, I actually managed to use up every single hardpoint in this mech and make it into a monster brawler. And it does 539 damage, which is huge. It's almost the most. There is the Atlas A, which we'll come to later, which you can squeeze out an even bigger brawl damage build out of it, so it has an even bigger alpha. But we'll look at this one first. So we've got an AC-20. That's great. AC-20s hit really hard. Fantastic weapon to have. We've got 5 medium lasers. 5 medium lasers. Good amount of medium lasers. Good amount of damage. Hard to knock that. And also having that large number of them means you've got a good chance of getting those lucky headshots in. On top of that, we've got 2 SRM6s because we can. Just because we can add extra stability damage to the already massive stability damage of the AC-20 and do some more armor chipping, and a couple of tons of ammo gives us plenty of ammo to work with there. And then in addition to everything else we've already got, you can add 4 machine guns in as well. So even more chance of taking out heads. This makes a great headhunter. Granted, the SRMs are not that great at it, but medium lasers, machine guns, and an AC-20 that can instant headshot things, we've got a pretty effective headhunter here. And whatever way you use this, even if you're not using it for headhunting, this strips away armor like it's nothing. It really does. Like 539 alpha is huge, and of course it does 108 stability damage as well, just from the AC-20 and the SRM6s there. It's a scary mech. If you are lucky enough to find yourself a whole AS7LL, build it like this and see what you think. I'm pretty sure that once you try it like this and you've ripped mechs to shreds, you'll see the joy that is this build. And yeah, it's one of the few mechs that has such a wide variety of weapon systems, but that also just works, you know. So I'm a big fan of that. We got a load of heat sinks in it as well, so it is actually pretty heat efficient. And you know, usually if it's getting a little bit hot, I'll just switch an SRM6 off or 2, and it, you know, it will cool down. Right, so let's have a look at the Stalkers now. Stalkers in Battletech Extended 3025, Stalkers are very common mechs, so you will get Stalkers. And my favourite variant used to be the 3F until I discovered the 3H. But we'll look at the 3F first, because I want to save the one that I like the most for last out of the Stalker variants. Now, this build you will probably have seen before. Now, I showed this build off on stream quite a while back, and then for those of you that read Reddit, I did notice that shortly after I streamed the episode where I showed off this build, a guy put up a post saying, "Oh, I've come up with this build," and it was basically my build. So whether he saw me do it or not, or came up with it himself, I've been doing this build since pretty much Battletech, the original game, released, because I saw the potential of this and went, wow, this is going to be a disgusting brawler, and this is how I've built my Stalker 3Fs ever since you know, first getting my hands on my very first Stalker in Battletech. And there's a good reason for that, and it's because prior to this mod, where there are variants where you can cram more firepower in, this was the biggest amount of alpha, the biggest amount of damage, the biggest alpha strike that you could get out of a single mech in the game. In the vanilla game, this is the daddy. This is the biggest amount of damage you could do, and that's an alpha of 498 if you're using all improved weapon systems, and it also does 120 stability, which is also nice, but it's all about that max damage of 498. Now, of course, we've surpassed that with other variants that are in this mod, and I will show you the biggest amount of damage that I can do now with mechs from this mod. But it used to be this in the vanilla game, and it's 4 SRM6s, 6 medium lasers, an absolute whacking great pile of heat sinks as well to support that, makes it very heat efficient, and this will just melt the face of anything. This ruins mechs. This sees atlases and king crabs and other stalkers and laughs in their face and then melts them. It's an absolutely disgusting build, and it's very, very powerful. I assume most of you by now are aware of this or have tried it. If you haven't, though, do give it a try. It will put a smile on your face. However, with this mod, it's no longer what I consider to be the best Stalker, because there's one I prefer more, and that is the Stalker 3H, and we'll have a look at that now. It's very similar to the 3F. The 3F has 6 energy hardpoints, 4 missile hardpoints. The 3H has 4 energy hardpoints, 6 missile hardpoints. So only a small change. You know, you drop 2 energy hardpoints in favor of gaining 2 missile hardpoints, but that means I can get 6 SRM6s in it. And I back that up with 2 medium lasers and a whole buttload of heat sinks as well. But the alpha of this is just that little bit more than the 3F. So the 3F does 498 with all improved weapon systems. This does 502, which is a little bit more. Now, granted, it's not as pinpoint because we're swapping out lasers and gaining SRMs, so this will spread the damage around a little bit more. So if you want more pinpoint, go for the 3F. But if you just want pure unadulterated damage and stability damage too, this obviously does more stability damage with it having 2 whole extra SRM6s on top, then this is the one for you. And I prefer this just because I've said many times, I just like SRM6s. I don't think they're better than medium lasers in terms of brawl weaponry, but I do think they're fun, and stability damage is good and useful, and knocking mechs down makes for easy kills. So yeah, I've got a real soft spot for this. It is a joy, and again, if you like the Stalker 3F, try this. You will most likely like this as well, and you will see later on we'll look at an atlas that pretty much has the basis of this as its build, but with extra stuff as well, and that will be the biggest alpha that I've managed to do in a sensible build. By that I mean something that's heat efficient enough to work in any environment. You will see is in the AS7A, but we'll get to that. We will get to that. We have a few more mechs to look at before then. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. Great for knocking stuff down and great for stripping away armor. And just generally satisfying to watch a cloud of missiles just ruining your target. And it feels like they're never going to end. It's just missiles, 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 missiles. Oh, and we're done now. It's very, very, very satisfying. Right, now we'll look at the Highlander 733C. It's pretty common, this variant, so you can almost guarantee you're going to end up with one of these if you play enough time in the late game. And this is what I like to do with this. It's pretty straightforward. 4 SRM6s and an AC-20. It's a good brawler. It doesn't have jump jets. I know that might be a travesty to some of you lore heads, because I'm using a Highlander with no jump jets, but I prefer the heat efficiency, and this is just like it's a massive shotgun punch. Granted, it doesn't have the damage total that the Stalkers have that we've just looked at, but it does have a little bit more armor. which, you know, sometimes some people might prefer, and it does pack an AC-20, which some people might prefer as well. It's a good solid build, but given the choice between the two Stalker variants or this, I'd probably take the Stalkers personally. But if you know, if you happen to find yourself with one of these Highlanders and want to use it, this is what I would go with: 4 SRM6s and an AC-20. Just can't go too far wrong with that. Shotgun of Doom, and like I said, plenty of heat sinks will mean you can use this in any environment, and it will work nicely. Now, on to the next. We are on to the Annihilators. Now, these, I mean, honestly, you can play... I mean, what have I got? I've got one that's almost up to 5,000 days of a career, and I've never seen an Annihilator. So, you know, these are very, very rare. You are very lucky if you manage to get yourself an entire Annihilator. Now, I'm going to show you these because I'm sure you'd be interested to see, one, that they exist, two, what you can do with them if you do get your hands on them. But honestly, having used these, I am not a massive fan of the Annihilators because they're just too damn slow. Yes, you can fit more weaponry in them than any other mech in the game, but you really do pay for it in speed, and it can get really infuriating moving at 70 meters. Just for comparison, if you look at an Atlas moves 95. And Atlases feel slow, obviously, compared to everything else, because they are, you know. Atlases, King Crabs, Stalkers, they're amongst the slowest mechs in the game. And then you get the Annihilator that moves at 70. And honestly, you might not think that's a huge difference between 95 and 70, but you really feel it. You really feel it when you're doing missions. You just feel like you're just plodding forward so slowly. But anyway, that aside, let's look at what you can put in terms of firepower, because although the movement isn't a joy, the amount of damage you can dish out in these is. If all you need is a turret to defend with, now why is that 2 tons overweight? Don't know what we've done there, but that's easily fixed. There we go. Something's clearly changed on this since I built it, because I didn't build it overweight. I don't know. Never mind. It doesn't really matter because this works out just fine and dandy without those extra heat sinks. Yeah, if you're doing, say, a base defense mission, for example, where you don't really need to go very far and you can just use a turret, essentially, the Annihilator will work for you. And this particular variant is the 1E. This is the energy variant. It has 8 energy hardpoints. Also 6 support weapon hardpoints, worth noting if that's your thing. But because it's so slow, I don't bother using those, because the odds of you maneuvering yourself close enough to the enemy to make use of them are pretty slim. I go for a long range build with this because, like I said, you're a turret. You're not going to close the range on the enemy easily, so you may as well have a good reach. And what I've got in this is 7 large lasers, which is, quite frankly, disgusting. 7 large lasers. Now, if you're lucky enough that you've got yourself a whole bunch of double heat sinks that you can replace some of these single heat sinks with, you can actually just about get away with using 8 large lasers in it if you're really crazy. But that I do insist that requires having probably using every single double heatsink that you can possibly pick up in the build, and then you can get an extra large laser. But you know, 7's enough. Most of my things will work around, you know, 4 large lasers if they have large lasers. There's nothing that can get almost double that outside of an Annihilator. So just imagine 7 large lasers zapping away, going for a precision strike, a mech's center torso. It's just devastating. And again, really heat efficient thanks to this vast number of heat sinks that you can cram in it as well. Great armor levels. Like I said, the only drawback is its speed. Its speed is just painfully slow. But if you're not worried about speed and you just want pure, unadulterated firepower, this is the mech for you if you're lucky enough to get your hands on one. And I strongly recommend giving this build a try. An alternative to this, if you're a PPC guy, and again I recommend double heat sinks for it, but you can cram in 5 PPCs into an Annihilator 1E. It does work. if you've got the double heat sinks to back it up. But I would recommend going with large lasers generally, just because you just get so much more damage out of 7 large lasers compared to 5 PPCs. So yeah, just disgusting. Hard to wrap your head around. Sorry, let's confirm that. Hard to wrap your head around having a mech that you can cram that much long-range firepower into. And of course, you could build this as a brawler, but I think you'd be pretty nuts to do that because you just can't close the distance. Right, now we've got the Annihilator 1A, and I believe this one you're more likely to find than the 1E. I think the 1E comes in later on, so you've got to have played quite a number of years before the 1E even starts showing up. But the 1A, you can possibly see this right from the start. And what I go for with this, it's 8 ballistic hardpoints, 4 energy, and again 6 support slots. I use the ballistic hardpoints just because you can. So one thing you can do with this is you can build 4 AC-10s. Works great. You can't get away with 4 Gauss rifles. It's too heavy. You can't get enough ammo in it. But 4 AC-10s you can, and that does work. Nothing wrong with that build at all. But what I prefer to do instead is go for 6 AC-5s, just because I can, and because I like using this and going for headshots and just dakka. It's just fun. Again, you'll see the ammo in the wrong places, just as I said, because there was an error, just like the Nightstar. There was an error with this mech at one point that meant I couldn't put that ammo in the legs, but now I can. So the AC-5s, they only require 1 ton of ammo per AC-5, so 6 tons of ammo is more than enough. Single heatsink, it's enough. It's heat efficient. You know, these weapon systems don't generate much heat in the first place. What is it, like 8 heat per AC-5? Yeah. And again, if you can get the plus 10 damage AC-5 variants, each one of these is putting out 55 damage. It's not enough to one-shot things in the cockpit per weapon system, but, you know, you've got 6 of them. So you might get a couple of them hit the head in one volley, and that's a dead mech. And, yeah, it's just... I don't know. There aren't any other mechs, really, where you... Well, there aren't. There simply aren't any other mechs where you can cram this many ballistics into it and just get that truly satisfying feel of dakka craziness. This is a mech for you if you like that. 6 AC-5s. Yeah, just watch it. If you get this, build it like this, just watch it fire and tell me you're not satisfied with that. There's just a joy that you get from this that you can't find in any other mech. The most any other assault mech or any other mech of any category has, I think, is 4 ballistic hardpoints until you get an Annihilator, which has 8 that you can do this with. Now, again, if you really want, you could put AC-2s in and fill all 8 up, but just do yourself a favor and don't. There's just no need to build yourself a mech that boats AC-2s. They're an underpowered weapon system, in my opinion. They don't do enough for the tonnage that they take up. So I recommend do it with AC-5s instead, or go with 4 AC-10s or 3 Gauss rifles. However you want to do it. This is a boat for ballistics, so it just makes sense to use it as such. And yeah, very, very satisfying. But again, just like with the other Annihilator, it's super slow, so just use it really for base defense missions where you've not got to move very far. I mean, look, if you get one of those, you're going to use it. You know, you are going to use it to start with because you're going to want to. You'll be like, oh, I've never had this, I want all this firepower, I'm going to use it. But honestly, after a bunch of missions, you'll start getting frustrated with how slow it is, and you'll go, do you know what, I'm going back down to Atlas or King Crab or Stalker 3F. You know, it's just better that way, having that extra speed, slightly less long-range firepower, but Atlas has hit damn hard enough, Stalker's hit damn hard enough, and you'll get your mission done in a shorter time because you'll spend a lot less time trudging across the battlefield with your Annihilators. But yeah, when you first get them, they're novelty, they're fun, they're nice to use. Right, so now we need to have a look at the Atlas A, so the AS7A. So we'll save this and load up that. Okay, so now I've had to load up my my previous stream career, which is now unfortunately over, as I'm starting a new one with the Urban Warfare expansion, which is going to be great fun. And also there's been some new features added to Battletech Extended 3025 as well, so it makes sense to start a new career and show all of that awesomeness off. But I needed to load this up because on my other file I wasn't lucky enough to get this Atlas variant, so we'll show it off from here. And we named this the Overkill, and for damn good reason. Okay, are you ready? Brace yourselves. This is what the Alpha Strike is: 592 damage. That's right, 592 damage. That is the most amount of damage I've managed to squeeze out of any mech chassis in this mod. And again, yes, you could probably get more if you're willing to make a non-viable build. But this is a very viable build. Look at that heat efficiency. Absolutely fine. Look at the number of heat sinks. Plenty to back up this amount of firepower. So, you know, yeah, you could be pedantic if you want and go, oh, well, I could put all these weapons in, I could put a bajillion weapons in and do more damage. Yeah, sure you could, but your heat efficiency is going to be 1 bar, you know? So this is the most damage you can viably get out of a build in this mod of all the mechs that I've discovered so far. And I think possibly because I have discovered a lot of them, having played many I've played more hours of this mod than anyone else. I know this to be true because I stream it so much, and because I had this mod a long time before anyone else, you know, before it was released to the public. So I'm pretty sure this is the pinnacle of assault mech brutality in this mod, and it is the AS7A. 6 SRM6s and 2 medium lasers, and then on top of that 3 small lasers as well. So once you're super close up, you're getting that extra damage as well. And all of these, of course, are improved damage weapons. So the small lasers are plus 10 damage as well. So, you know, obviously we're using the best of the gear that we can get hold of. I'm not using any lost tech, so again, you know, you could probably do slightly more with certain lost tech builds. But we're just looking at basic equipment here. Lost Tech is a whole different kettle of fish and a lot of fun to play with, but not very common. So this is just with basic improved gear, and yeah, that's just the absolute beast, the Overkill. Because, you know, you shoot this at something CT and it will be doing Overkill for sure. 592 damage, just it doesn't hit harder than this thing. And this is my #1 favorite assault mech in the entire mod. It's nowhere near as slow as an Annihilator, but it does so much damage. It's got 1 ballistic hardpoint, 2 energy hardpoints, 6 missile hardpoints, and 3 support slots. So really the only thing that we're not using here is the ballistic hardpoint, and that is in the left torso, which is unusual for an Atlas, because normally it's in the right torso. But yeah, there is a ballistic hardpoint here that you could make use of if you choose. But I think you get more damage if you just don't bother with the ballistic hardpoint and just cram these small lasers and heat sinks and medium lasers in. It's practical and it's painful. And yeah, if you get yourself one of these, happy days ahead. You're going to walk your way through any other assault mech that you encounter with this bad boy. It's just awesome. And again, the armor levels, look at it. Another thing people can do to cheese damage totals is, oh, you know, if you strip your armor down enough, you free up enough tonnage, you can fit more weapons into mechs, sure. But again, I don't consider that to be sensible or viable. I consider this to be, though, because everywhere front facing is maxed. Rear armor stripped down to 60, 60, 65, which is plenty of rear armor. And yeah, the rest of it is just pure firepower and heat sinks to support the use of that firepower. Give it a go if you haven't. Well, that is where I'm going to leave it, because I've run out of mechs now. I've done all of the various weight categories for this mod. I hope you found any of them or all of them interesting and informative. As usual, the disclaimer, I'm going to say there are many ways to build your mechs and play this game. As long as you are beating the AI, as long as you're winning the missions, then you're not doing it wrong. So I'm not sitting here telling you this is the one right way, there is only one way to do this and it is my way. No, I'm telling you this is what I like and what works for me with my thousands of hours of playing this game. Like, I'm over 1,700 hours of playing this game, and this is what I've found in my builds to be the most successful for my play style. And there are different play styles that work and different ways of approaching this game, but this is what I like, and I like big hits, big alphas and precision strikes, smashing big holes in mechs and taking them down with efficiency, and this will see you through any mission. I'm very much looking forward to getting to this late stage of the game on the Urban Warfare expansion and testing my builds against the new mission types as well, because obviously I've not managed to do that yet. Urban Warfare's only just recently dropped, but I can't wait till I get to that stage, because I know they've worked great for the previous expansion. I've had no trouble with all the other flashpoints and stuff. I'm just, you know, itching to get my hands on an AS7A again, build it like this and take it into some of these new mission types and hopefully crush the enemy mercilessly. Still, if you found this useful, if you enjoyed this, if you tried the builds and you liked any of them, please give me a thumbs up on the video. It really helps me out, and subscribe to the channel for more content. Check out my playlists. Obviously I've got the Flashpoint playlist where I played the vanilla game with the Flashpoint expansion. I've got my first Battletech Extended 3025 playlist, which is now finished. I think that's like 70 episodes of action there, where we hunt down and find all the rare, weird and wonderful mech chassis and designs in the mod. So if you want to see what you can get in that mod, that playlist is a good place to find out. There are a lot of episodes though, so you know, it will keep you entertained for many hours if you like that sort of thing. And also I'll be starting a brand new one with the Urban Warfare, with the Battletech Extended, with the latest content for that mod and for the game with the Urban Warfare DLC. So please check out that playlist. That will be going up shortly. I will be starting that series today. But yeah, it will be a little while until you see that go up, at least 24 hours anyway, as per the Twitch rules. So yeah, and I think I'm done. Yeah, I may do more videos of this kind of thing in the future. There may be new mechs that come out, because there are constantly mechs being added to the mod. So I may choose to do it again if I think there are enough new mechs that have come out that really surpass the mechs that I've talked about, in terms of how good they are and how common they are. But at the moment, I'm happy with where things sit in all the categories I've covered, and hopefully you are too. Leave comments as well. I'd love to see a discussion. If you've got builds that you do with any of these mech variants that you think are better, feel free to share. I'm sure people would be interested, and I am too. We'll check out what you do and how you do it and why you think your stuff is better. But also leave comments if you've tried these out and you liked them and you found success with them, because I'd love to hear that other people are finding these things work out for them, as they have done for me in you know, my many hours of gameplay. But yeah, I think I'll leave it there now, and check out my live streams on Twitch. I do Battletech at the moment on my schedule. Battletech is Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays, every Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. It starts 3 PM UK time or 10 AM Eastern if you are in North America or whatever that time zone. Come say hi, come join. I've got a whole bunch of real characters for my regulars who absolutely love Battletech, and you know, we use subscribers as the pilots as well, so people get really involved and really nervous about dying, which is always fun to play with. And we'll be playing the latest series starting today, so it'd be great if you would come join. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.